On Stand Up Ash as part of our coverage. She's up on Capitol Hill with a special guest.
Because it's the Commission on Boys and Girls, black boys and girls. I can't miss it.
Joined by Congresswoman Terry Sewell, we're on, who is the representative of Selma, Alabama. We were talking before, there's so many stories. I met you in Selma, or I met you before that, but I spent time with you there a couple of years ago when I had the honor to be on the pilgrimage. You co-hosted 10 pilgrimages,
yes.
And met him as a teenager coming through Selma over and over again. Talk about that.
Yes, you know, I have so many great memories of John Lewis. It's been a treat of a lifetime, is if you've been on that pilgrimage as you were, to have the opportunity to walk in the footsteps of John Lewis with John Lewis. It doesn't get any better than that. And I got a chance growing up as a little girl in Selma, Alabama, and as not only a daughter of Selma, but a member of Brown Chapel AME Church, to sit in my pew, that pew to the left that my parents always sat in, and witness so many amazing foot soldiers come back year after year. You know, everyone from Coretta Scott King to C.T. Vivian to Joseph Lowery, and of course John Lewis, and so many of them are gone now. What a heavenly crew that must be up there, freedom crusaders in heaven. But John was such an amazing mentor and friend, and it's not often you get a chance to really meet your real-life American hero. And I got to meet him, and more importantly, got to befriend him, and he became such a mentor to me. I have so many wonderful memories of co-hosting those pilgrimages 10 times. Only John would be so willing to give and share a platform and to put a spotlight on the importance of the next generation. John was so giving.
And that was so key. You are the first African-American woman to represent Alabama in Congress. And he took special interest in a lot of people, but really you, because of your connection to Selma, because of his obvious connection to Selma. But the two of you grew very, very close, and he really walked the walk with you in teaching the next generation. What did you learn? How can you even articulate what you learned from him?
I can't, Danny. You said you weren't going to make me cry. But I shared a very special relationship with John, partly because of definitely because of our connection to Selma. You know, I couldn't be in a room where he was talking about voting rights, or in the Capitol when we were trying to restore the voting rights. If he saw me, if I was anywhere in the room, he would say, and Terry Sewell represents Selma today, and he would pull me up and grab my hand and make sure I was standing beside him or right behind him. And it's going to be cold in that shadow of John trying to fight to restore the voting rights, but I know that there's a whole army of disciples of John, people that John has poured his heart out into. He sowed seeds of hope and inspiration into so many people. And I do know that now is the time for us to pick up the baton and to continue his march towards making sure the full protections of the Voting Rights Act are restored. That's John's legacy. That's John's life. We have to also remember to vote in every election. State, federal, local, all elections are important. And John would have wanted us to continue that fight. He gave us the roadmap. Every speech he gave, he said it. He said, never give up, never give in. Keep the faith, keep your eyes on the prize. And we have to do that. I'm just so honored to have gotten a chance to know him, and just more blessed that I got to know him as a friend and as a mentor. He would call me the girl from Selma. I would laugh and call him the boy from Troy. And he'd echo back, well, the girl from Selma. And we would marvel at how far our state has come, our nation has come. And I would say, but we have so much more to do. And John, in his infinite optimism, always said, it will happen. We are in search, a march for that beloved community. People want to do right. He really had this way about him that only John, and this is a man who was bludgeoned on a bridge, for him to still have such faith in humanity. It was infectious.
I want to ask about that bridge, which is in your district, the infamous Edmund Pettus Bridge. There is a lot of talk about renaming it, maybe even after John Lewis. You and John Lewis, not that long ago, released a statement saying it should not be renamed. Why?
You know, 5 years ago, John and I did an op-ed piece about it because John felt, and I did too, that name had been transcended by the movement on that bridge, and that you couldn't have revisionist history. But you know, I called John right after the Black Lives Matter movement and the death of George Floyd, and there was a big movement to really get rid of Confederate namings.
And
frankly,
we should say Edmund Pettus was a grand wizard of the KKK.
And a U.S. Senator from Alabama. But yes, he was. And I think as I evolve on this, my feeling is that we have to be unequivocal. All Confederate namings are offensive. They're offensive, and they go against the equality and justice that this America is out for. So it seems to me what we should be doing is you know, everything has to be on the table, including the bridge when we're talking about these Confederate namings. I feel fervently, growing up in Selma, that Selmians, people from Selma, should decide what it should be called. I personally would call it the John Lewis Bridge, but I also know that so many from Selma fought and marched with John and shed a little blood on that bridge. I think that the best tribute we can give to John is renaming H.R. 4, the Voting Rights Act, for the the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Act of 2020. That's what we can do for sure in Congress. I do believe symbols have their place, but legislation, impactful legislation, is really what
it sounds like that at least is going to happen. Thank you for sharing your memories with your dear friend and mentor. Appreciate it. John.